without further ado, I'd like to introduce National Louis University's Executive Director of Legal Affairs, McSeel Johnson.
Good afternoon and welcome to National Louis University. Thank you all for coming. We have an extremely exciting panel. We were actually fighting in the back over who was going to introduce you all, but I've deferred to Paul, so you guys will have to keep the anticipation waiting. But National Louis is very pleased to host this event. We're so excited about all of our veterans' activities and our new opportunities. Our mission is founded in a pioneering spirit that is exactly what this event is catering to today, and that is the entrepreneurship spirit that goes back to the pioneer days of Elizabeth Harrison, our founder. And our mission at National Louis is to provide quality education and access to opportunities that nurture students through innovative teaching, through scholarship, community engagement, which is a huge topic for you all today, and finally with service excellence. So we want to thank you for coming, and one of the most exciting leads into this brochure announcement was that it said you're going to get a chance today to get exposed to a world of new ideas. And the biggest thing you should remember, if you don't remember anything else, is let yourself be motivated and get out there and get engaged. Thank you all for coming today. Before you leave, I also want to remind you, National Louis is going to have an event on May 15th at our Lisle campus where we're going to have a USO care package building activity. And that's from 11 to 1, and it's open to the public. We did this last year, actually, in this room right here where we're all in. We were going to build 50 boxes, and we ended up building 138. So it's really exciting for us, too. So join us in Lisle on May 15th. Thank you all again. Have a great day.
All right, I'm now going to introduce the moderator of the panel discussion. He's National Louis University's Director of Armed Service Relations, and he's working on a social entrepreneurship curriculum coming very soon. So he will, I think he will prove a dynamic moderator. Paul Knudsen.
Thanks. So before I introduce our panelists, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I've got a command voice, so I don't know if I need to hold this thing. I do want to let everybody know that we're actually broadcasting live on Zoom right now, and I know that we have some folks who are dialed in, and we've been tracking this as well online. And currently, so there's a camera over there, and they can see us, so everybody say hi. So joining us, via webcam, we do have the Dean of the College of Management and Business, Chris Kassir, as well as one of our esteemed professors in the college, David DeSanfilippo, who are listening in, all of whom are also obviously leading the charge on our social entrepreneurship endeavors here at National Louis. And so I wanted to draw attention to that and welcome them on the web as well. So what I'd like to do now is to introduce our panelists, and then I'll open up the discussion with a pretty simple introductory question for each of them. But to my immediate left, we have Nellie Rowland, who is the president of Safe Haven, a transitional housing facility in West Chicago that shelters up to 400 people at a time. And I do know that, I believe it's about 25% right now are veterans themselves. Is that correct? And while helping them aspire, transform, and sustain their lives as they transition from homelessness to self-sufficiency with pride and purpose. To Nellie's immediate left is is Courtney White, founder of Culinary Care, a budding non-for-profit in Chicago that partners with restaurants to provide free meals to families who have a loved one battling cancer. Courtney graduated from college in 2011, so recent college graduate, and started the organization in January of 2013. To her left is Todd Connor, a former management consultant, U.S. Navy veteran, and facilitator of Flank 5 Academy. Flank 5 Academy was created as a personal incubator to help people realize their potential by bringing psychology and strategy to work in a context that helps people do self-discovery, create personal strategy, and ultimately take action to realize their professional aspirations. And then finally, Ann Gillespie, principal of the Academy for Global Citizenship, an innovative charter school in Southwest Chicago that develops mindful leaders who take action both now and in the future to positively impact their communities and the world beyond. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists. So now that I've introduced our panelists, I'll open with just your typical panel question to do a self-introduction and maybe talk a little bit about yourselves, but more importantly, tell us about your organization and what is the need in the community that it addresses, and how does it address that need? So we'll start with Nellie.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's really an honor to be here. My name is Nellie Vasquez Rowland, and I'm the co-founder of an organization called A Safe Haven Foundation. And we actually founded A Safe Haven back in 1994, so we consider ourselves a little bit of pioneers in the field of social business enterprise. Our idea behind starting A Safe Haven was really about trying to address and solve the issue of homelessness and poverty. And what we realized was the services that were out there in terms of the delivery system for someone that's in crisis and trying to get back on their feet was very fragmented. So our thought was to create a model that provides housing and food, which is basic and fundamental and across the board needed by every human being. But then after that, everybody's path is really individualized in terms of providing them with access to the services that they need that are the root causes of their homelessness and poverty, such as drug and alcohol addiction, such as financial literacy, such as education, things like that. So we have a vast array of services that we offer. We partner with organizations in the community that also fill a void and fill the gaps for people that are living in our programs. But actually we house about 1,200 people at any given time. And we've got 34 locations that range everywhere from transitional housing, supportive housing, affordable housing, and senior housing. So we're scattered all over the Chicagoland area and the suburbs. The two challenges that we faced originally when we started A Safe Haven in terms of addressing and identifying the root causes and creating paths to self-sufficiency was we can do all that and socially stabilize people, but at the end of the day, they were very hard to employ. There were employers that were a little skittish about hiring people that had backgrounds or big gaps in their portfolio, in their background. So what we did is we've actually started several businesses that employ people, such as a catering company, a pest control company, a landscaping company, which is probably our most famous social business enterprise. You see our trucks up and down Michigan Avenue. We do a lot of the beautiful medians on Michigan Avenue, the rooftops, and including the one at City Hall. And we bid public and private work, and that's a business that employs people that live in our programs so that they make money, they're getting the education that they need for horticulture. They can even go on, and many have gone on and start their own businesses afterwards in the field of landscaping or anything, because they really learn a work ethic. And the affordable housing is a piece. So these businesses actually employ people that are involved in our programs and graduate from our programs to either be a transitional job or a permanent job. So in a nutshell, we call ourselves a vertically integrated ecosystem, so that we move people from homelessness to sustainable self-sufficiency and plug them into employers through another company that we own, which is a staffing company and a workforce development company. So something to see, if you haven't, and we'll be talking more about what we're doing with the community to engage people to be a part of the solution with us. So thank you, and I look forward to sharing more. Thank you.
Thanks, Nellie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Courtney White, and I'm the founder of Culinary Care. Thank you so much for having me here. I started Culinary Care a year ago. As Paul mentioned, I am graduated in 2011 from the University of Arizona, and about 7 years ago, before that, my father had passed away from lung cancer. So we were in and out of the hospital. I was in high school at the time, and my family and we were in and out of the hospital and just visiting my dad and being with him every second that we could. And during that time, we had family and friends that brought us meals every single night for about 2 months straight. It was pretty much the highlight of our day, being able to come home, know we had this freshly prepared meal for us. Waiting at home, it was exciting to know, what we were going to be eating that night, and really just gave us the opportunity to de-stress and just be together as a family. And when I graduated from University of Arizona, I moved back to Chicago. I'm originally from here. and was looking for ways to kind of give what I said is like one less worry back to other families and individuals facing cancer. I really wanted to, volunteer and either cook or prepare meals or deliver them myself, and there wasn't any organization that I could join that was doing it. So I have a few entrepreneurial people beside me, and we decided to start Culinary Care. So in 1 year, we have delivered nearly 1,000 meals to families and individuals affected by cancer. We partner with, thank you. Yeah. We partner with local restaurants, so Let Us Entertain You Group and Maggiano's, some really well-established, amazing restaurants. They donate all of the meals that we deliver, so our families are just kind of placing a carry-out order, but instead of placing it directly with the restaurant and paying for it, they just kind of order it through us. And we work with them and nutritionists in hospitals as well to make sure that the meal that they're eating is something that they can eat, they're excited about eating it, and it also fits within their dietary needs. I guess in terms of filling a need and a void in the community, I really felt like having something to come home to, and that meal was really something amazing and really necessary in my perspective. In working with the hospitals that we've partnered with, primarily the director of nutrition at University of Chicago has been an incredible asset for us, and she sends articles and nutritional information about people facing cancer and what it's like going through that from a nutritional perspective. So in a grander scheme, we've figured out within this year that nutrition is kind of a huge untouched issue within the cancer world. It's recognized, but it's not, primarily solved. The doctor's primary, concern is getting rid of the cancer. Social workers are there to help and refer resources like ourselves, and nutritionists are there for dietary needs. But we're really hoping to work to get people excited about eating. I know my dad personally did not like any of the hospital food, and he didn't really want to eat. He wasn't hungry, so if he wasn't excited about it, then there was no feeding him. So we're really hoping to be able to get everyone excited about eating. Apparently 1 in 5 people affected by cancer die from malnutrition itself, and not directly related to the cancer at all. So, if we can get people excited about eating and really work to reduce that number, then, we've done something good. In the meantime, it's one less worry.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah. Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, round of applause for Courtney. And Nellie. So as Paul said, my name is Todd Connor, and I'm the founder of Flank 5 Academy. Flank 5 Academy is a personal incubator. What's a personal incubator? If you've heard of 1871, you know that that's a tech incubator. If you've heard of social or impact engine, you know that that's a social enterprise incubator. We're a personal incubator. So our model is, if we look at every single person in this room and help you connect, as Courtney so eloquently described in her own narrative, and Nellie did as well, if we can be in the business of helping you connect with what you are really authentically driven towards, that maps to your skills and your assets and your passions, we will, through you, create businesses. And that's exactly what our model is. We don't start with ideas, we start with people. So people have ideas, people have passion, and if we can tap individuals and tap through the noise, and it's not about credentials, it's not about master's degrees, but if we can tap into who you are and help to identify and cultivate those unique gifts and skills, and then help you develop a personal strategic plan to actually put these things into action, we know that we can launch new businesses, we know that we can launch nonprofits, we know that we can help people find fulfillment through work. So our process is a 10-week program that's intense, that involves a lot of homework, but it's not homework like you would get at a graduate school. It's not learning balance sheets. It's not learning new technical skills. It's learning a little bit more about who are you. My co-founder is a therapist, so we spend a lot of time on what is your why, and then discovering kind of what is your how. And so we really have an aspiration that every single person has a unique gift and contribution that they can put forward into the world, and that if we can be a vehicle to help cultivate that we are in turn going to be a vehicle that launches, like I said, successful businesses, successful nonprofits. Our track record thus far is very strong. And I think that in time, we're going to begin to see a conversation evolve that says, well, what are you guys doing that other incubators aren't doing? And really the answer is going to be, it's about helping people connect with who they are, and every single person has a gift to give. So that's why we started this business. Prior to this, I was at Chicago Public Schools running a network of high schools. Prior to that, I had my own consulting business. Prior to that, I worked for a corporate consulting firm. Prior to that was in the Navy. And what I know from my own experience, because how many of you in this room are aspiring entrepreneurs, social, business, or otherwise? I sometimes ask the question, how many of you don't like your jobs? But I'm worried there's too many National Louis employees. Okay, so I don't want to ask that question. But between those two questions, you know, employed but not really fully realizing my potential, and at the point that you have a successful business with a successful plan, there's this giant white space where people like you and I don't know or are scared on how to take those first initial steps. And the reality is I've done this myself, and it's always been very scary. It's always felt very high risk. And what we're trying to do is demystify that. And if we can make it feel safe and structured and supported for individuals to step outside their comfort zone, to go really pursue their passions, create phenomenal 20-year-old organizations, we will have done a significant good deed. So that's our motto, and look forward to the conversation today. Thanks.
Thanks, Todd.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ann Gillespie, and I am the founding principal of a Chicago Public Charter School called the Academy for Global Citizenship. AGC is currently in its 6th year. I have been there 7 years because I spent a year, had a day job, but on nights and weekends was writing the proposal for the school to submit to CPS. We started with just 90 kindergartners and first graders back in 2008, and we've grown every year. And now I have 350 beautiful kindergarten through 6th graders, and we'll continue to grow through 8th grade, and are likely going to do a high school as well. So I have a grander vision of being a pre-K through 12th grade school. As I'm sure all of you know, public education in our country and state and city is not exactly where we need it to be. So the need for high quality public education is just really, really great. And I'm a former Chicago Public School teacher, taught on the West Side, North Lawndale, and really was dismayed at what I saw was the reality of my kids' public school experience. It was beyond unacceptable to me, and that was a very catalyzing experience, and I just knew I had to do something about it. At the time, I didn't know what. In fact, I said I'd never want to be an elementary school principal. Of course, famous last words. Just thought that I would go into district level leadership, or maybe mid-level school-based leadership, something like that, but not the principal. But I moved to Germany. I taught in an international school for 3 years, and really saw what a very highly effective principal can do for a school, and took that with this passion to be back in Chicago, and moved back in 2006, and that's when I started working on AGC. The school is a really special little place. We don't have an umbrella organization. We're our own little selves. We don't have multiple campuses, and that's by design. We want to do the one school and do it really, really well. We do have grander visions, though, of positively impacting 20 million kids by 2020 by sharing our practice. So our first responsibility is obviously to serve our students within our 4 walls, but then we do, to steal a tech term, we open source what we do at the school. So we've had over 5,000 visitors in the past 6 years, and just have a lot of interest in what we're doing, and we're all about sharing what we're doing, and that fits really well with what we aim for our kids too. We want our kids to be change makers, and not change makers when they're 30 years old, but change makers when they're even 5 years old. So we structure our day and our curriculum and teaching and learning in that way, where they have a lot of responsibility. We teach them inquiry. We're an international baccalaureate school, which I'm happy to go into if any educators in the room, and talk about that later. But you know, our 5-year-olds come to our school with a lot of knowledge, understanding of themselves and the world, and it's our responsibility to build upon that. They're not empty vessels. So we do a lot of teaching about the environment. So we have a very strong sustainability component to our school, as well as international awareness and health and wellness. We serve 100% organic breakfast, lunch, and snack that's made from scratch every day. We have chickens. We have all sorts of, we have a zero waste lunch program. We have composting bins in every classroom, and we're in the process of right now of building a permanent facility that will be Illinois' first net positive energy school that's been built, which is really exciting. So that's a little bit about AGC.
So I'm gonna pick on Courtney, so you can go ahead and pass the mic down to her. So this is gonna take some initiative on our social entrepreneurs, which shouldn't be much of a problem because they're all upstart type people, and so just you should be fighting over the mic. I want to talk next. I want to talk, but at least we'll get it going by pegging someone to talk, and then we'll keep it going, and then hopefully this will inspire some questions. So I'd like to encourage everyone here that's joined us to, as the conversation is going and you think about a question, write it down, because we're going to insist that there are questions that come from you for either the panel in general or a specific individual, in light of some of these, the themes that are going to come out here. And I've taken some notes, and so here's some of the underlying things that I wrote down to think about that sort of came out from everyone here. But root causes. Socially stabilized, vertically integrated, gaps in service, people's passion, gift to give, realization of injustice, innovation in a marketplace, inspiring change. Taking risk was said, but I put managing risk as well, and thinking about risk in general and how to leverage risk. I think those are some of the things that I heard coming out, and I think those are some interesting things when you talk about engaging in a social setting to have social impact, but not forgetting the business side of it. And so let's not forget that. And so with that in mind, obviously there are financial needs, and not only financial capital, but then intellectual capital that needs to come into this endeavor in order to make it come alive. And so Courtney, I'm going to challenge you, since you're kind of the youngest and the upstart, and you've put this thing together on the fly, and I'm sure you've got a great idea of how did you find the financial capital, and where did and not only just the financial capital, but also that intellectual capital that comes with it to make that dream a reality?
In terms of financial capital, we are actually in the midst of doing that right now. Since we are 1 year old, the first and foremost concern for me and my board was making sure the families were served. So we actually went our entire first year without fundraising being a primary focus at all. It was really, let's prove our need. We know that there's something here. We believe it wholeheartedly. We have a great team of people behind us, but let's just get rolling. So now, instead of what would have been last year and us going and saying, we have this great idea, this is what we want to do, will you donate? We are 501c3, so it is just donation based, unless we're privately funded, which we're not. So instead of going and taking that route and hoping that it would work and using people's donations to fund it, we figured let's keep our costs as low as possible, do what we need to do, and now we can go to companies, corporate partners, whomever we need to raise money and say, we've done it, there's a need, we're partnered with 5 local hospitals and 2 cancer-centered organizations in Chicago. They all tell us every day how much their families and individuals need this, and we've served 1,000 meals, and our costs have been so incredibly low and that was our strategy behind it. All of our meals are donated from our restaurant partners. So the highest cost for us right now is really gas, which is a high cost, but we're making it work, and there has been a cost to it. Our board was prepared to take that on themselves as we grew for the year and figured out exactly what we needed to do. We are currently raising money, and we are pretty much all the way done raising that money for a startup company we just partnered with called We Deliver. They're a for-profit startup in Chicago that does same-day delivery service for small businesses, and we thought they would be a great fit for us. Like, their tech system essentially was our biggest bottleneck moving forward. All of our drivers are volunteer-based, so how are we going to? We're essentially a logistics company, so how are we going to make that work effectively for us moving forward? And this company was introduced to us through a group of Northwestern grad students we were working with, and so they are now white labeling their website and their phone application, so it allows us to kind of make a co-branded application for our volunteers. So all you would have to do is log into your phone, say that you're available for the next 2 hours and would like to do some volunteer work for us. You've gone through training, and if we have a delivery scheduled, it'll a little notification will pop up and it'll say, are you available? Do you still want to take this delivery? And there you have it.
So just to keep the conversation going then, so donations and raising funds in another, maybe what other, to everyone, anyone who wants to steal the mic, what other ways are there to get that financial capital in starting and sustaining your enterprise? Steal the mic.
I'm learning that.
So I crack on this. So I'll be a little bit controversial and say the question assumes, and this is a lot of what we talk about in the program, but the question assumes that there's a sequence of events that goes something like this. I'm working, I have a job, I really want to be harvesting honey from a bee farm and selling it local. I don't know, I'm making something up. I want to start a charter school. I want to provide meals to people struggling through cancer, right? And we think that I'm here, that's where I want to be. And the first piece of advice when I talk with people, I say, well, what is it that you want to do? Well, I really want to work with children and do art programs. Great, tomorrow go work with children in an art program. But it's like, but I have a job. Right, tomorrow go work with children in an art program. You want to be a social entrepreneur? Like, get ready for your second job. Am I right? Yeah. So it's none of the first activity in starting is doing the work. It is not about financial security. It is not about a business plan. It is not about even the website or having the board of directors. The first step is doing the work. And so however it is that you go do the work, you start doing the work. Now, there's other paths to this. Sometimes things are more sophisticated than that. But most of the startup entrepreneurs that I know, it really is about getting out doing the work and then proving that there is a need, which is just that. And then in time, beginning to build in these attributes. And I'm so emphatic on that because I think people self-impose. The biggest obstacle we have with people that come into Flake 5 Academy is they self-impose gating activities to what they can do. Well, I want to do this, but I don't have the money. I want to do this, but I don't have the degree. I want to do this, but I don't have the board yet. And that self-sabotaging thing is the thing that actually, I think, holds back enterprises from being launched. Yeah. I'm going to give it to Nellie.
Yeah. And Nellie, you have a pretty large operation now relative to what Courtney, I mean, in terms of dollar figures, probably the annual costs of running a safe haven are probably substantial. So how then do you, to Todd's point, getting started, right, is just doing, but sustaining is a different story once you're going. So maybe you can address that.
Okay. It's, I mean, I do want to address the idea of starting. I think what both Courtney and what Todd said, was just, so profound in that you have to have a why, a very powerful why into why you want to do a startup and specifically a social business enterprise. If you've got a powerful enough why, then you'll be unstoppable. I'll just say that, okay? Because the idea of failure, you can't even, allow that to enter your mind. Second of all, what Todd said in terms of, the best way to start a social enterprise or a business, any kind of business, is just start doing it. And that's exactly what Brian and I did. My husband, co-founders in the back there, it was actually he was the inspiration for what we were doing. But we actually had full-time jobs and careers that we were very, very happy with in the world of finance, and weren't actively looking to start a social business enterprise. What I actually say happened to us was almost divine intervention, in that we decided that it was important to give back. We had a powerful why as to why we thought, it was important to help people in crisis. First of all, I grew up in Little Village. A lot of people that I grew up with weren't as fortunate to, have access to the type of career that I was, invited or, was able to get involved in, and, other personal reasons. But we started doing it as a little bit of a charity thing. We were just buying buildings with our own personal resources and allowing people to live in our buildings with our own personal resources. So we were financing people to live in our properties that we had just, by the way, bought, acquired, renovated, invested a tremendous amount of money in, and couldn't get bank financing on the buildings that we were buying and renovating because our business model didn't make sense to banks that we were going to allow people to live there for free. They're like, where's your revenue? So we thought, well, we can afford it, so we'll just go ahead and finance this ourselves. And eventually, when we stop helping people in need, we'll move on and we'll convert these properties into condos as we originally planned. However, that exit strategy, we never got to it. It was impossible for us to even fathom the idea of stopping helping people. It seemed heartless, to all of a sudden shut the door on someone coming to you in need. We found that the people that were coming to us as we were investing in helping them get back on their feet by getting them access to all the different services that they needed, they were actually moving out with keys to their own apartment. They were getting jobs. They were getting clean and sober. And we felt like we were onto something. So what I love about what Courtney's doing is really, what we felt we had, and by the way, we were doing this for 5 years with our own money, okay? And we were investing. We did invite some investors to help us with some of the real estate, that got to be a little too expensive for us to do on our own. But for us, we felt that we had a little bit of a proof of concept, and that we noticed that there was, again, a lot of money being invested from government, from philanthropy, from all different sources, and that money was not being allocated in a way that really was effective or cost effective or offered to anybody who was putting money into these issues any type of return on investment or making a measurable or visible impact on anybody's life in terms of breaking the cycle of poverty and homelessness. So we knew we were doing that, so we actually approached Northwestern University to come in and do a study in our program. They actually did get funded and got funding to do an 18-month study, which got published in the American Journal of Public Health, that stated that we had the most effective and cost-effective model in terms of helping people get back on their feet, which for us was something that we felt was needed, and we didn't know at the time, that you didn't need a study to go to government for funding, but we felt, we needed to show that what we were doing was working and that we were going to help, the state, address these issues in a very positive, productive way. So so with that, we did get funding for the very first time after 5 years of starting by the Illinois Department of Corrections. So we started to get funding to help people that were coming out of the prison system transition back into the community and allowing them to go back into the community with a roof over their head, with meals and access to opportunities like jobs or employment and education and things that they needed to really move into society in a sustainable way so that they wouldn't go back into the system, because statistically speaking, over 50% of the people that come out of the system without help that they need, more than half of them will go back into the system within 3 years. We've reduced that number dramatically by helping them every step of the way get back on their feet. So sustaining our model, we continue to apply for contracts, and grants, donations, and at one point we had gotten to the point where A Safe Haven was 100% funded by government. And until 2008, we started having some budget crises in the state of Illinois, and we started seeing our budget started getting cut dramatically, which really hurt us in the sense that, we saw that when the state needed money, that they found it very easy to really cut budgets for human services, which to us kind of defied logic, that you would want to cut budgets on the most vulnerable populations, We predicted then that by doing so, what we'll see is a higher rate of crime, in the community, because all of a sudden there's no safety nets out there. And even in the last 5-6 years, we've actually seen over 50% of the homeless programs basically go away. And for us during that same time period, we've actually more than doubled in size. And the reason is because of our social business enterprises, we've been able to really grow our businesses, grow our portfolio in affordable housing, and actually build our own organization to be more sustainable. So today, we continue to apply for grants, we continue to apply for government contracts, but now we're only 40% dependent on government, and 60% we produce our own and generate our own revenues. So we truly are today more well-rounded and more effective in terms of being a sustainable model, helping people achieve self-sufficiency in a sustainable way. So for us, it's right on message. Thank you.
No, that's a great story, because eventually what you're talking about is a diversification of your portfolio, which is something that's very business acumen, right? In order to ensure sustainability and really managing risk, where you identify this potential problem. And to try to segue to a subject, and I'm going to bring Ann back into the conversation this way, and maybe you weren't ready for this question, but you're going to get it anyway. So I think in terms of diversification, one of the ways that we diversify is by having a diverse network, having a diverse collaborative endeavor where you're bringing in different sources of revenue, different thought leaders who think about things in a different way. As you mentioned, going over and looking at a European model and having that collaboration, whether it's deliberate or inadvertent, or incidental, as it were. I'm wondering if you could talk about how you leveraged your personal, professional networks in order to lead towards the attainment of your objectives and your goals, and determining which parts of your network and how to expand your network appropriately to fill the gaps that you had as you were building out your plan, as you said, in nights and weekends at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So the Academy for Global Citizenship is not the creation of one person or a small group of people. It's literally been thousands of people that have contributed in the most ways you wouldn't even think, people could help. So, this even ties in a little bit with the previous question in terms of funding. One of the things that we were very strategic about early on was, some people may have called obnoxious, but we like to say it was persistently, talked to everybody and anybody that would listen to us about our school. So things, because of that, and because we were very passionate about it and maybe a little crazy, and so we found other crazy people, and they got excited too, and it got to things like, oh, here's an architect who will do all the inspecting architects reports for free that we need to submit to Chicago Public Schools, which otherwise would have cost us probably $5,000. Printing business cards for a very low cost. You got a network, so you got to have business cards, and so that, surprisingly, those costs really, really add up. So, we attorneys, obviously being a school, so talking to a lot of parents and educators, so there's kind of that whole community, but business people as well who are very interested in investing in public education because it, helps them down the road too. So it's been really incredible to think about all the people that have helped, and I wouldn't have thought, I think, going in, if I rewind the clock 7 years, I wouldn't have thought like, oh, this is what's really going to help make us, have a very strong school, is these thousands of people. But in retrospect, that's what's made it happen. And I like to say often that it takes a village to raise a child, and I think that we're embodying that very much. So so just the piece of advice I would have for you is just start talking to everybody and anybody, and use social media. That's been an incredible way for us to connect with people. So Twitter and Facebook, which are free. So yeah.
So again, to your stimulating thoughts that I have, and I always like to share. I mean, as a director of Armed Service Relations, I'm an Army guy, and I love the Army. And I ran the board circuit. For those of you who are in the military, you know what I'm talking about. You go to the boards, NCO of the year, all this other stuff, and you memorize these things. And one of the things I memorized was the definition of leadership according to the military, which is providing purpose, direction, and motivation in order to influence others to accomplish the mission. And so when I'm listening to you saying you're self-motivated, and you're going out and you're trying to get other people to get motivated. But everybody has their own leadership style, whether that's very direct or very passive, or servant leadership, or leading by example, all these different things. And so to kind of continue to build off of leveraging your network, because once you build that network, however it is, by going out and persistently being crazy, eventually you have to get somebody to buy into that. And so I'm just wondering for anyone, to reflect on your own leadership style, and then, because all of you are leaders, you start something, you're a leader, right? All of you are leaders. You will start something, and eventually you will bring it to fruition. So, but how do you use your own leadership style to influence others to get the $5,000, pro bono work on an architect, or to get involved on a board when you create a board of directors, or to get engaged in your process? So wondering if somebody wants to talk about your own leadership style, and then how you use that to influence and motivate others to collaborate. And feel free to jump in, or if somebody wants to steal the mic.
I would just say that I probably tend to be more of a servant leader, and I certainly don't think that I, as leader of the school, have all the answers, and in fact I don't. I tell my teachers that all the time, but I certainly will work with them and help find solutions to problems that we're having, and so I'm very much about working together with people, and that at the end of the day, certainly the buck stops with me with a lot of things, but we're all in this together. It's kind of the mantra that I have. So, and I tend to hire type A personalities, very passionate people as well. So, that's the other thing. Like, just we've been very conscious of who we surround ourselves, who we hire, and they're people that just obviously are incredibly invested in our mission and work really well with my style of leadership. They're go-getters, and they're thrilled to have lots of autonomy. So, works for everybody.
The question of partnership and the question of leadership. On the question of partnership, it's absolutely critical, and it's interesting now because there are now venture capital firms and investment funds that will only look at, in fact, I think Impact Engine is moving this way, only look at partnership teams. They will not look at single leader companies for investment. They'll insist that there's a partnership. Part of why that matters is because the work of starting things is hard, right? And I'm looking at, a spouse in the room, Nellie's husband. So the work of starting things is hard. So unless you have somebody with whom you can come back and be an honest reflection, and with whom you feel like, I might let myself down, but I can't let my partner down, right? There's a psychology to this. There's a real psychology to this. It's why journaling has an impact. Because we begin to utter and believe the things that we actually want to start believing, even when we don't believe them yet. So there's a real psychology to partnership and why that's important. In terms of leadership, one of the things that's so critical in any organizational context, but particularly in a startup context and particularly in a social enterprise context, it's that you stay focused on the work. So I could choose, if I was starting a charter school, to look at another charter school and say, it feels competitive to me. Because I'm out here starting a charter school, and she's starting a charter school, and pretty soon we're like, I'm looking at her like competition, right? It's a self-defeating mindset that you can see nonprofits slip into. If it's about children and getting children educated, then there's absolutely no conflict of interest. In fact, if I really want to get pure about it, if she's got a better school, that's actually, like, maybe I should be encouraging some of my kids to go to her school. So it's really about suspending your own ego and keeping this on why. And I found that when people are able to do that, because part of this as an entrepreneur is you step out and you say, hey, if you're going to be an entrepreneur in a social enterprise context and you have to fundraise, when you're early at this, you think, I'm asking them for a favor. I'm uncomfortable asking them for money because it feels like I'm asking them for money essentially for me. And so the way you get past that is to say, this is not about me. This is not about me. This is about homeless youth. So can we talk about homeless youth? Because I care about homeless youth. I'm all in. I created an organization to have an impact on it. Where are you on this issue? Mm-hmm. So it really is, and that's even true with business, that it really is just about the product and what you're doing. So I think part of the work is, even as we ask about leadership styles, because we all have them, is to de-emphasize our leadership style. Like, we're really not central to the story. It's really not about us. It's about the work. And if you can keep it there, you're going to get more money, more momentum, more partners.
Yeah. That's nuts. Since
Yeah, if I could have one of you in my
follow
pocket
that one up.
all day, that would be great. I would say, piggybacking off what both of them have already said, it is 100% about we. It is something that I'm learning right now with a lot of the people that have offered to help me. I mean, I have a full-time job, so like this certainly cannot just be a me thing. Without all the people that have been helping build Culinary Care, it just wouldn't be possible if I was doing it alone. And it's something that I think, getting people excited is kind of one of the things that I've learned is networking a whole bunch. Going out there and spreading the word and talking about it. I was really shy about talking about it at first. I was just kind of going with it, but being 24, most of my friends are out doing, other things at bars. And I was going home and working on a business plan or working to coordinate meals for families or sending menus. So it was something where it was kind of like, people would look at me being like, oh, you just feel so high and mighty about it. It's like, I don't, I'm just trying to, this is what I want to do. So that was really interesting. Once I started talking to everyone and anyone, the right people kind of jumped on board. Mm-hmm. And it really was just more conversational. And now I'm learning, now that I've made the conversations and had volunteers jump on board, people are really kind of get our cause just to the core of what it is. Everyone likes a good meal. Everyone likes to sit down and eat one. So it isn't a whole, it isn't a hard sell for us, which has been amazing because a lot of people, unfortunately, know someone that knows someone, or they have had a parent pass away from cancer as well, or they know someone who is sick and they get it. And that's been really huge for us. But one of the biggest things for me is kind of accepting that I don't know everything. When it comes to building a business, I pretty much know nothing, except for the fact that I know personally these meals are important and they mean something to someone. And that has been the biggest kind of advantage for me in building this organization, is really just accepting that I don't know everything and asking questions. Anyone that I talk to that, I think could be helpful, it's like, what do you think about this? Or how do you feel about that? And people like to help is another thing that I've realized too. They really want to be a part of something. And in terms of leadership, I'm still figuring that out. But what I'm growing to discover is kind of one of the best ways to be a leader is asking questions and understanding what other people are looking for in their lives. So if I'm trying to get, a PR professional on board to help and volunteer her time to be, pitching and helping us grow by spreading the word, what is she looking for in her life? Does she have an organization she's dedicated to already? Just figuring out what their interests are, how you can help them personally with what they're doing, and then kind of encouraging that and their personal growth through what you're doing has been huge. But definitely using the word we, I would say, is like the number one thing I'm learning right now. I'll send emails using the word I, and then I get, business professionals back who have been helping me grow, and they're like, Courtney, always use we. This is not you. So that's been, I think, my
great.
biggest.
And I think it's interesting because while everyone was talking, I'm thinking about the nebulous term networking, right? What does networking mean? And it's all of these things. And what you just articulated there, I think, is really important. And to summarize that, in terms of networking, I mean, I can network with everybody in here, but what I really want to try to find out is where is that connection where we can find some sort of mutually supportive arrangement where what I'm doing naturally assists you and what you're doing naturally assists me. And if that doesn't exist, that's okay, because we can only handle so many contacts, in a day, right? I mean, the military, to go back to that, the military is arranged by teams and squads and platoons and companies by designs, because it's all 3 by 5 people all the way around, because you can only handle so much. But when you're able to build those connections through a mutually supportive interest, I think you end up having a multiplying effect there, and I think that's really poignant. So what I want to do right now is I've seen, kind of glancing over, and I've seen folks taking some notes and thinking about some stuff, and at the risk of not having any questions come from the floor, which I know is not going to happen because we've got a fully engaged audience here, I'd like to open up for a couple of questions for maybe the next 5 minutes or so, and for anybody. So please, if you could state your name and just kind of real quickly, like who you are and who you're with. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yes. My name is Alexandra, and I work with careers in nonprofits. I'm a recruiter in their temporary division. This is actually for Nellie. You said that ASAFE Payment had actually, when you were helping with this transition and really kind of creating that almost holistic approach to supporting your clients in ASAFE Payment, that one of the things you encountered was hesitancy to bring on more convicts, for example. So, and you said one of the things that you had done was start a staffing firm?
We actually acquired a staffing company that's been around actually for about 40 years. It's a company called Civic Staffing.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard of it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been around a long time, and they're actually, along the lines of social enterprise in terms of, really helping challenged populations, get back into the workforce. So, yeah, that's what we did. We acquired them.
So I guess my more specific question was, and this kind of can be applied to all of our leaders here, is part of the work that you do as a leader is education and bringing your colleagues along with you. So coming from a leadership standpoint and working as an executive director and running your own business, having both the for-profit and nonprofit experience, how do you think you were able to possibly educate your fellow colleagues about the benefits of bringing on someone that possibly had a criminal record? Was that something that you found challenging, or did you find that with your position in leadership that was an easier conversation to have with them?
Okay, we're talking about two things. Well, first of all, we're an employer, so yes, we hire people, and many of them have had criminal backgrounds, and we do help people get jobs that have criminal backgrounds. Okay, so I'm going to answer the question as an employer of people that have criminal backgrounds. And, we understand that the vast majority of people that do have criminal backgrounds that we serve actually may have underlying issues, the root causes, may be, for example, drug and alcohol addiction. as an example, lack of education, things like that. So we work very hard in helping people address and solve those issues. And, we're a growing organization, and many of the people that come through our program actually benefit tremendously from the work that we do in terms of helping their lives. And there's nothing they'd like to do better than to help other people get through it as well. So for us, it's a golden opportunity to hire someone that has the potential to be successful in our field, but brings that story with them that's going to make them incredibly, influential to the person that they're trying to help in terms of sharing their own experiences and how they personally were able to overcome it. So we do hire a lot of people with the experiential piece that helps people move along, and we also, of course, hire people with the academic background, so we have a good mix. I want to say we have in our network about 400 employees, and about half of the people that we employ are actually graduates of our program. And I want to tell you that even with the backgrounds and placing people in jobs. We had a contract, for example, that went on for 3 years with the Department of Labor that required us to do job training and job placement. And they tracked us, they audited us, and they wanted to know that we were really doing the work and making it happen in a way that was sustainable. And we love when people come and audit us and want to track our stuff, because we don't always have the money to do the follow-ups, and this contract came with that, so they did it. And they reported that not only was our job placement rate at about 85% for this contract, which involved hundreds of people, but also what was great about it was the retention rate was 87% for a period of 9 months, which is what the period of the contract allowed for them to track for. What was even more phenomenal about those numbers was the fact that this was a very specific contract that was geared only for ex-offenders that had come out of the criminal justice system within the last 6 months. So these were the hardest people to find jobs for. And what we found too, and I think this will be backed up by some studies that I've heard about, is that the retention rate actually for ex-offenders is much higher than the general population, because they don't have the luxury of walking off a job and thinking they're going to get a job, and they know how hard they have to work to get that door open for them. And if it wasn't for our organization making that, door opening happen, they probably wouldn't have gotten a job on their own. So they really, really appreciate and are grateful for the opportunity. And with our job training programs and with our job readiness training programs, we really help people teach them not only how to get a job, but how to retain that job and how to excel and how to thrive and really how to help that employer from day one. So it's a big focus of our organization, obviously.
Thanks. Here and then here.
My question really is based on how you ended in talking about the impact and how you measure the impact of what you're doing. And I can hear it, but I want to actually ask you, what is your impact? So when I think about, I'm sorry, Nellie, Courtney. Okay, so when I think about the impact of having meals given to people, families that are given, cancer and so forth, what have you seen to be the impact of that in terms of whether it's members, whether you see from a health perspective that people are getting better, or is it more from a family perspective? And I'm very curious about the impact of kindergarten, where you started and where they are now in terms of the difference that they're making, or even their mindset of how they are going to forward what you're doing for them. And I'm certain that Tom is right. Your impact of people who are truly understanding their potential, and when that potential is released, and how that's been impacting society, especially in terms of crisis that kind of protocol. So I just thank you that you can take it off.
So Courtney, we're going to go for maybe 5 more minutes, and then we're going to eat, and we're going to talk at table. So maybe a quick 1-minute answer and to address impact versus performance.
For us, we definitely don't have any of like the studies done that Nellie's organization has had the opportunity to do. We do plan on doing that down the road, just to have those measurements. I mean, our annual report has to have some numbers in it. For us personally, just on a regular day-to-day basis, from what we've seen is just the fact that, you know, one person in particular, you know, we were delivering a meal every single week, and her first meal, she was figuring out what she wanted to order. And she had this whole menu from Hub 51 in front of her, and it was like, what am I gonna get? So she was hesitant with me over the phone on what she was gonna order. She picked, you know, salmon, more bland items, and then kind of one, like, you know, hurrah in there to see what she could eat. And it really was a measure of how much was kind of going to stay down, and what it was going to taste like, and all of that, all the factors that go into it when you're going through treatments. And it was amazing to get a phone call and an email from her after she ate it, and it really was just as simple as, I can eat.
Yeah.
I can actually hold food down. I can eat. And the next 3 menus that she got, she kind of just went crazy. Yeah. So that's really the core of what we do, is really just getting, you know, our families and the individuals that are going through treatments excited, and make them realize that, you know, you can eat. You know, food can be exciting. It's not, your taste buds are not ripped from you. You're going through all these changes, but I promise a good meal is possible. So that's kind of what we see.
Anne, do you want to
Sure.
take a stab at impact?
Yeah, so definitely, you know, being a public school, we have all of the normal test scores and attendance rates and sorts of things that we have to be reporting, and that's certainly a very important part of our story. And the good news is that, you know, we've increased test scores. We outperform our neighborhood schools many, many times over, and great attendance and all that kind of stuff. But what I think with the stories I actually like to tell are what I call small moments, and these are these countless things every day, just walking down the hallway, you know, and I see one student helping, a little first grader helping another first grader put on a Band-Aid on his finger because he got, you know, scratched at recess or something like that, and you know, and the one student just saying, well, we take care of our friends here at AGC, that's just what we do. So it's interesting, because telling stories like that, certainly for donors, can be heartwarming, but that doesn't always make them want to write that $1 million check. So it's tricky. So as much as I am not a fan of standardized testing, we do have to share that information, but we always like to, like I like to say, kind of spice it up or round out that picture with some of these impact stories. And the other thing that I didn't necessarily think of when I was starting this school is sometimes actually how hard it is to keep track of those stories too. So just a thing I wish I would have known 6 years ago is to just take 1,000. I already take a lot of pictures, but take more pictures. Take video. Keep a diary every day when you're driving home. You know, think about what happened today. When you get home, you know, dictate it or something. Just keep a journal of what's going on, because I think, you know, certainly there are things that have stuck out in my mind, but I know I'm missing a lot of those small moments too from 5 years ago. So yeah. So it's.
So one last question.
Hi, Carl. You guys touched on so many different awesome things, and a lot of it with the why and belief, not only team building but also building culture, and that's so pivotal. And I love the positive energy of all you guys. I mean, you can just feel it radiating the panel. You guys are all awesome people. But quick question. I mean, a couple of books that I've read, and leaders of readers and all that good stuff. But Simon Sinek, Start With Why, is an awesome book, and also Make Ideas Happen. Scott Gillespie was an awesome book that talks about a lot of creative team building and how to kind of facilitate that. So with that, with staying positive, with starting with your focus and making, you know, the whole concept of a mistake made by action is so much better than a mistake made by inaction, and to just get out there and do it, and the rest will come later. So is there any like really positive or really awesome books in one or two, or you know, or Todd and shift into that mentality that this is, if you start worrying, if you take your idea and you say, oh my God, if I say it to somebody, somebody's going to steal my idea, or how do I generate money? And then again, with all that self-limiting belief and self-destructive behavior by that negative energy, instead of just sharing your idea with everybody you know, and then finding people that are as crazy as us because we have this kind of passionate drive and belief in the law of attraction and all these other wonderful things. So with that, just any kind of awesome literature or books that kind of inspire you to get up.
All right, thanks, Carl. I'll give you 2 books that we read in Flank 5 Academy. One is Poke the Box by Seth Godin. It's a call to action. It's the metaphor he uses is, he says, ship it. He says, don't sit, talk, ruminate, discuss. I mean, we like to do these things too. Network can be productive. Network can also be a stalling technique. So his push is go ship it, which is this thing, just do the work. That's one book I think is phenomenal. The other book is Sean Aker. He's a Harvard professor. He wrote a book called The Happiness Advantage. Basically, anybody here read it? I'm hearing some, His basic paradigm, again, Sean Aker, The Happiness Advantage, his basic thing is, and it's borne out through research, and again, we live in the personal in terms of what I'm doing, what we're doing, but he says the American paradigm, and it's a distinctly American paradigm, is that we have to succeed first before we have license to be happy. We have to first go to good schools, get the master's degrees, right? Then get the job, then make the money, then have the kids. But some imaginary time when we are like 89, right, and the house is clean, and the kids are gone, we can take a breath, take a bow, and be happy. And it's a false paradigm, but it's literally a paradigm that many of us, I think, live under. And he says research actually suggests the exact opposite, which is that when we are happy, that's the greatest predictive determinant variable of future success. It's actually just the opposite. And so my push with that, and I guess, and I'll make these my parting words, is for all of us, including convicts, people with criminal convictions on their records, it's about getting to an authentic place about who we honestly are. Because so much of when we talk about startup is like, the risk is, I don't hope that any of you come do what I have done or any of these other talented women have done, or what Paul has done. I hope you do what you are going to go do. And there's a great story for every single one of you, regardless of where you come from. The question was asked, success. I'll tell you my favorite success story coming out of Flank 5 was a woman who had not worked for 30 years. She'd raised kids, and she came in and she said, I'm underqualified to be here because I don't have a professional history. And I said, you're absolutely wrong. I said, what are you interested in doing? She goes, well, I want to coach. My daughter had a drug addiction, and I want to speak to other mothers with children with drug addiction. I said, guess what? You are the only person I know qualified to do that. So you are all uniquely qualified to do something. Be authentic to it, honor it, don't try to be somebody else. Go be yourself, and you're going to find success. I wish you luck.
There. Any other books? Well, then, those are great closing words. I couldn't think of a more appropriate close to that. So I'd like to thank, once again, Ann and Todd and Courtney and Nellie for joining us, and let you know that, yeah, please, a round of applause. The good news is that the discussion isn't over. We have food and we have some drink, and we still have 10 minutes on the schedule, but we've got the atrium for as long as you all want to stay here and continue to network with a purpose. But the tables are set up on the side just to facilitate a specific conversation, but certainly we want to encourage everybody to stick around, enjoy the food, continue the conversation, continue the dialogue, and don't let this be something that you just came to, sat at, listened, and then forget about. Decide on something today and do it. Right? So just do it. So again, on behalf of National Louis University and everybody who put this together, wherever Dan is at, and Dan put all this together with his team and everybody else, thank you so much. Good night.